I know I'm late to the party, but better late than never, right? What's good, folks? It's Nightmare Frame here with a Nuke Inaros video. Yes, it's an ability Nuke DPS build for Inaros. Never in my life would I have ever thought I would utter those words. But here we are. Now, this build is utilizing the Elemental Sandstorm Augment, Inaros' second ability augment. Now, this is a very unique augment because it does some things, but not your traditional things. Reading the augment, Elemental Sandstorm, okay? Sandstorm gains 50% ability range. Now, this is a 50% multiplier to the base range, which is 7 meters. Pretty small, I know.
That's what she said.
And yes, this is additive to stretch and all of that, so you can add even more range plus this augment to get giga range. However, we're not going to be doing that. And has a 100% status chance. This gives the ability status chance. Now, this has a 100% chance at base of inflicting status effects based on the damage types and mods on the equipped weapon. Did you hear that? This ability now functions like a pseudo-exalted weapon and scales with the damage types. Not damage and crits, just damage types that are available and equipped on your melee weapon. Alright, before we go to the melee, let's have a look at the ability itself, Sandstorm. Looking at the ability itself, you can see it drains energy, of course, as usual, deals damage per second as slash damage, and the radius is increased from 7 to 11 just because of that one augment, and health per enemy type, because if you didn't know, when you activate this ability, you become invulnerable, and when you're invulnerable, you suck in enemies, deal damage to them, and you heal based off the enemies that are inside your sandstorm. Very good. This is a very useful ability. And right at the bottom there, you can see the Elemental Sandstorm. And that status chance is increased by your strength. I have 293 strength and I get a 292% status chance increase. Another thing to note here is that the 293 is not my final status chance increase because I do have conditional strength increases in the form of arcanes. Now, another useful thing is that Sandstorm is affected by movement speed multipliers. I want you guys to sit back here. Sprint speed and movement speed are two different types of multipliers. Movement speed affects all type of movement, and sprint speed only affects, it's in the name, the sprint. The Sandstorm is affected by movement speed multipliers. So let me demonstrate Dispatch Overdrive. Normally, this is how fast you're going to be moving. Pretty decent, right? Now, let's add that Dispatch Overdrive activation. You can just heavy attack, but I'm going with slam damage. And you saw how big that slam radius was. And yes, we did activate Dispatch Overdrive. When we activate Dispatch Overdrive, boom, we are moving faster. Way faster than before. And yes, bleed them to death. And if you're wondering, oh, I'm using the Praetos because it gives me sprint speed and all that, but for this particular loadout, we're going to be using different types of evolutions. Starting off with evolution 1 or 2. The first evolution is activating it. Whatever. Evolution 2, increase slam radius. I know, right? Not sprint speed. Shocking. That's weird. For Praetos? I know. Increase your slam radius. After you pick the slam radius, the other two right here don't matter. Pick whatever you want. But then finally, increase heavy attack wind-up speed. Yeah, this just makes it even faster to heavy attack because I will be using the heavy attack feature of this weapon. Now that you know what weapon I'm using and why I'm using it, but there's another thing that you need to know about the build itself and why I chose it. So let's take a look at it. The Praetos is a slash Tomfa, meaning it does have slash originally. And looking at the build over here, it is modded for like a weird heavy attack build. And I'll explain that in a bit. But first, let's take a look at the damage types present on this build. I do have viral and slash. I'm increasing my slash weight here so hard because I want that to be my main source of damage and the main thing I want to proc most of the time. You could just do another plus here and it will still be fine. Having a look at the build, you can see that this is modded for viral and slash. However, it does have damage modifiers, but these do not affect Elemental Sandstorm. Just these three mods and Dispatch Overdrive, but this doesn't do anything for the damage. Only these affect the damage. Looking at the damage types present on the melee, we have our Impact, Puncture, and Slash, but I've modded it for Viral and Slash. And for the arcade, I do have Melee Fortification. On melee kill, you gain armor, but this is not as consistent, and the other ones just don't perform that well for this particular build. However, for those thinking about using Crescendo, because it gives you initial combo after finishers, and yes, Sandstorm does open enemies to finishers, and this will increase your heavy attack damage, but it's too tedious to use Melee Crescendo. So why am I actually building it for damage as well? Because this is going to be my main weapon for dealing with acolytes and my stat stick. So it's a 2-in-1 weapon. And my guns literally do not matter for this loadout. It's just Sandstorm and my melee and my pet, which I'll talk about in a bit. For my Helminth ability, I will be using Roar. Roar is a universal damage multiplier that affects your weapons and abilities. And the best part is that it deals 2 times the damage with damage over time status effects. And what kind of status effect are we dealing with? Well, bleeds. With the Viral modded on the weapon to debuff enemies' health, bleeds, dealing damage directly to the health, and Roar, multiplying that damage that we deal yet again. So this is a very cookie cutter combo that is going to help us nuke in Steel Path. And the best part is that you don't even have to worry about armor. Now, going back to a little thing that I did try to do. Yes, you could put green shards and use melee exposure to get corrosive. Now you got green shards, corrosive proccing pretty well. That ends up with 14 stacks and armor stripping enemies, and going with raw viral damage and heats. Unfortunately, that didn't do so much. Yes, even though I had full-on viral damage, corrosive, heat, and Archon vitality, it was bad. It was bad. It actually did way less damage, killed way slower than your simple viral and slash on your melee. So here we are in Steel Path, and before we start anything off, I'm going to suck myself off. Unfortunately, you're just gonna have to do this. Every Inaros player will be doing this. So now that I sucked myself off, you can see on the bottom right corner, I gain all that armor. All this armor is status immunity. And believe it or not, some people confuse what adaptation does and what status immunity is. Completely different things. One is damage reduction, one is status immunity. Please know the difference. Get a little bit of energy, just want a little bit of energy. And we don't even have to worry about our health because we're gonna heal all of that up. I will perform 2 Void Slings, and these Void Slings will buff my strength to then buff Roar. Let's go find some enemies. That slam damage will activate Dispatch Overdrive. And then boom, we just sandstorm away. You saw how we wiped everything on the minimap right there? That was beautiful. Because one of the enemies was procced with the Mecha Set mod. Heavy Slam to refresh Dispatch Overdrive, and we go zooming. Look at that. Another Heavy Slam. Sometimes you can go into a very small, narrow corridor, and you can't see because you're just picking up so many enemies. Another useful thing to note, if there is some sort of elevation or something above you, you will pick up enemies who are above you, but not so good at picking up enemies below you. I could pick up enemies who are just on this little ramp. However, I won't be able to pick up enemies underneath me. That's about it. And the cool thing is, you don't even have to worry about Eximus units. If we do get the Mecha Set proc, that one enemy will release all of that bleed damage to everything in the area. Well, within 30 meters. You can also do this. Get rid of his Overguard and suck him up. That was easy, right? We'll wait for the Acolyte, and we'll show you how easy it is to deal with the Acolyte. Whether it's violence or not, like, it's not going to be an issue. Because we're not using abilities to get rid of the Acolyte, but our actual weapon. Took him way too long for the Acolyte to show up. So, we've performed 2 Void Slings. Roar. Alright. Madarai. And... yeah, he's dead. That's it. Acolyte done. Alright, so let's head back into the Orbiter and show you how everything is put together. Now, let's take a look how we put this build together. If you're wondering about the Archon shards, all of these shards are energy max. Surprising, right? You thought it was going to be armor or health? Psh, nah, energy. We're replacing Prime Flow on the build. That's why I have these 3 Town Forge. You already saw how the Praetos is put together. The guns, they don't matter for this, so don't worry about them. But yeah, Focus School, Chatterai, the usual. You know what it does. Power transfer, sling strength. Yeah, good stuff. Now let's take a look at the Warframe himself. In the aura, I will be running the Mecha. I can't spell Mecha. Mecha Empowered. Boom. Right there. Squad deals 150% extra damage against a marked target. Now, how does this marked target look like? Alright, so the dog will mark an enemy with a faint icon on top of its head. When you see that, then target that enemy. Because when you kill that enemy, it will spread that status effect to all nearby enemies. And it scales with additional mecha set mods. Not the damage, but the range. Interesting thing that I did add onto this build was thanks to Asian Invasion. He showcased the Kubro with the mecha set bonus, which is actually a pretty good idea. You should go check him out. He's awesome. But he's a weird gacha addict. So you and your squads will deal 150% extra damage to the marked target. Companion marks a target every 30 seconds for 9 seconds. Killing that target applies all their status effects to all nearby enemies. It says here 22 meters because I do have 2 mecha mods on my Kubro and 1 right here. But we're going to add a 4th one to complete the set, and that's with a Mecha Pulse. I'm gonna put it right there. This doesn't really matter. We're just here for the set bonus. But yeah, killing a marked target grants armor, so it's kind of useful for Inaros. Yeah, armor. Now we have 30 meters of that status spread, which is pretty useful. Now I'm going to be adding modified strength. So let's start up with the umbrals. I will have umbral vitality and umbral intensify. This is all you need. Then we're going to slap on blind rage, and in the Exilus I will have power drift. And finally, augur secrets. This of course gives me 293 strength. Blind rage, the 2 umbral mods, and augur secrets with the power drift. This is my modified strength. For the uptime and duration, primed continuity. For some survivability and additional defenses, I will be running adaptation. And finally, the augment itself, elemental sandstorm. So you can see sandstorm goes from 7 meters to 11. Finally, the arcanes. I will be running Molt Augmented. This is my conditional strength increases after 250 kills. And finally, Arcane Energize. When I pick up an energy orb, I get a bonus energy because I do have negative efficiency, and this is going to be my main way to top off my energy. And plus, his Sandstorm doesn't consume that much energy, even if we're at negative efficiency. Now onto the Kubro. I'm using the MedJ Predicites. The other things don't matter. Just put whatever you feel like looks good, but it's not, it's an ugly dog. Very ugly dog. The main things you want to have are the 2 mecha mods. Boom, right there and right there. And it does come with paralytic spores and volatile parasite. Otherwise, use whatever Kubro you want. If you want to go invisible with your sandstorm, you can do that, but it doesn't matter because you're invulnerable all the time. And if you attack with your weapon, you're going to be uncloaked. And as you saw, I am performing those heavy slams. What happened to my Praetos? I will be performing those heavy slams here and there just to boost my movement speed with Dispatch Overdrive. And that's pretty much it. This is the new Nuke Inaros. What is happening with my weapons right now? So yeah, that has been it for me, and I do hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace.